True.
Mm.
But that one's the
I mean,
Dominion one.
we could remove the Dominion one and ban external emojis from that below. Going nuclear though, just for the one.
1984.
Like that, yeah, it just feels like the nuclear option. at that
Literally
point.
1984.
All right, we're gonna get started. People can join late if they want. Let's see. Pull up my notes here.
That's a dead
All right.
person emoji.
So.
What?
Oh, why are you leaking? What are you leaking piss
What?
out of your neck?
Fuck.
Dude,
I'm sorry.
What are you talking about?
why can't you ever just leave me alone?
Why are you leaking? That's a
Why are
great
you
question.
It's honey, Wilvin. There's a difference.
Oh, it's honey.
Pissing
Sure.
on your neck.
Bruh.
Okay, I'm getting started. Welcome to Dominions. Is this no? We had a community meeting in
2 months
April.
ago.
2 months ago.
In
That sounds
April,
about right. Cool. So we're trying to be a bit better about doing these meetings every 2 months. We feel like that's a kind of a more regular pattern. And the other admins are helping to keep me accountable for that. If this is your first meeting, welcome. This is just an open forum style talk amongst us all. Having said that, we are, as the admins and senior kind of leadership of the Dominion community, we do bring topics to talk about, and sometimes we have some announcements too. But it's a very collaborative space, so if anybody has anything they want to say in the moment, then obviously be respectful and wait for an opportunity to speak, but you're welcome to chime in at any point. And for those of you who are just listening on the side while you're, air quotes, working or whatever, then you can use text. The one thing we ask is you keep all the text in one place. So we aren't going to field ideas and questions and thoughts from in-game or anywhere in Discord except for the text channel that's associated with this meeting, this channel. And you can find that by, if you go up to the top of this channel, next to where it says community meeting, there's a little tiny chat bubble that says open chat. It's a little bit hidden, but that's where we're going to field questions. And then if you are a staff person who's sitting in on this meeting, it's really easy for us who are leading the conversation to miss things. So it looks like we've missed something that somebody else has said. We're not being rude. We just have a lot of things that we're keeping track of. So just help us remind us that we might have missed somebody's thought or comment. I want to make sure everyone is heard. So to reiterate, if you have something important to say that's not meme or a joke, don't say it in game because we will miss it or ignore it. Put it in that community meeting channel. Other than that, we do have an anonymous feedback form that I will drop the link to now. This is, oh, perfect. Heavenly beat me to it. This is an opportunity if you perhaps want to say something or you have a thought that you don't necessarily want associated to your name. Then you can drop it in that anonymous feedback form. And at the very end of this entire meeting, we will open that up, take a look. And it doesn't matter if it means we need to circle back to a topic that we talked about an hour ago. That's fine. So just drop your anonymous feedback in there if you want to. And then we'll circle back to it at the very end. Other than that, I think that's pretty much it. And I'll hand things over to Bob initially.
All right. So.
Oh wait, sorry, Bob.
Oh.
One other thing: if you are a voice activation Andy, we do request that you turn your mics to muted while you're not talking. That's just so if there's interruptions, then we can not all get distracted when somebody's mom comes in the room yelling at them because they didn't clean up. You know. Go ahead, Bob.
Okay. So we just had a transparency report today. So as always, I'm going to go over those numbers. So you're all in the loop. So as you have hopefully seen or noticed even, we have a new box, a new server that costs us about $116 a month, which now varies slightly as rates between the euro and the dollar vary because it's, well, in Germany. We have offsite backups still, which are $54 a month, and we've spent around $183 in total on miscellaneous stuff, which like premium plugin services, setup fees for the new server, and so on. And that brings our total cumulative costs to $6,640.49, which is offset partially by our donations, which are about at $6,620. You'll notice that unfortunately we have dipped in the negative, in the red one could say. For the first time in a while. This has been the case for a long time in the Dominion's early days, where Wolven just made up the difference. And is now the case again, which we've been somewhat expecting since our donations have been slightly below our operating costs for a while, and we just forked out a lot of money, or some money, to set up the new server as a setup fee. One question that was asked in the thread attached here is that whether Wolven would be reimbursed if, let's say, next month we get a ton of donations and we're above. We get a ton of donations and we make more than we need. If Wolven's gonna get those $20 back that he put in this month, and the answer is no, he doesn't. He says that he considers it his own donation to the server, to the operating costs. Yep. So
Can I
still have the
clarify
same-
one
yeah.
little thing? Sorry. I think it was just where you misspoke. We don't pay $54 for offsite backups alone. I think it's like $10, but it's just like all the other things that are monthly that are not the actual main body of the server. So that's like premium bots and the backups and like 10 other things that you wouldn't even like the ticket bot thing that we pay for. We pay for a premium service so that it's like less likely to go down, things like that.
Yeah, so ways to support us are still the same. We have the Discord membership and the PayPal, which have around the same fees, so it doesn't really matter where you help out. It's just whether you want to make it a recurring thing or a one-off. And yeah, as always, there's no benefit to donating other than the nice yellow name, and that's going to stay that way. We're not going to offer you like in-game benefits or anything like that for donating. We're a free-to-play server, and that's going to stay that way. Thank you. I will hand over to FreeFlame now.
Anybody have
Thank
any
you, Robert.
questions?
Oh, yeah.
Sorry. Before we do that, I know we hadn't done a donation report in a while.
Yeah.
I guess I can expand a little bit on what Bob was saying. Just because this is the first time that we've gone air quotes negative, but I don't like to use that phrase of going negative, because when we started taking donations for Dominion, it was never ever expected that we would make more money from donations than what we spent in expenses, right? So the intention from the very beginning was that I would always, to use my terms, fork up the additional cost, right? Whether that was 99% of the fees or 2% of the fees. And it just was happenstance that we received a lot of donations. And so we were able to comfortably for a while not have that be the case. But I don't want anybody to get the impression that Dominion is hurting in any way. It's like, it just means we're going back to the normal, which is me filling in the extra 50 to 25% of whatever donations we're missing. And the reason we went, air quotes, negative is for what Bob said. But we have, for like a very long time now, 8 to 12 months, we've had less coming in than we have spent. And so it just gradually has ground away. It just looks like that money suddenly evaporated because I just forgot to do a donation report for like 6 months. And so that's why it looks like that money just evaporated suddenly. We had like $300 in excess the last time I made a post, but we've been making, say, 70 to 80 a month, and the server costs were about 130. And we did things like upgrading our website and purchasing good themes for our website so that we were able to be better presented as the quality server that we are. We had to pay a setup fee of like €50 to get this new machine. We've had to overlap servers from time to time to make sure that we can transfer data from one to the other without losing it all, things like that. So I don't want anybody to think Dominion is hurting at all. We're not. We obviously are still welcoming donations. It would be amazing to like reach the point where we were consistently hitting like whatever the costs are for the server every month in donations, but that's not expected from you guys. We're never going to become a server that requires any kind of payment to play. We're never going to provide any benefit for donating beyond just having a shiny name as a thank you. And that shiny name is regardless of if you become a recurring subscriber to air quotes subscriber to Dominion, or if you pay $1 one time because that's all you can afford, you still get that shiny name forever. It doesn't go away because you can't contribute anymore. We understand everyone's financial situation is different. Some people can donate a lot, and some people can't donate anything, and that's totally fine. And no one's ever going to get a different experience on Dominion based on what they can afford to give to it. Bones said, how below operating cost was Dominion, or was it just the moving which took it over? Yeah, on average, we were losing about 50, air quotes, losing, because again, I was always going to pay the difference, but we were, air quotes, losing $40 to $50 US dollar per month on server costs versus donations received. And that's changed a little bit because some really cool, smart people on the admin team found amazing deals for way better hardware for way less money. So that differential has changed again to more like $20 to $30. So constant improvements. Sorry, I know I talked a bunch there. Free Flame, sorry, go ahead. I didn't mean to derail it.
That's all good. So, as is always the case, that staff team is slowly changing and evolving. Sadly, that means that occasionally we will say goodbye to a couple of members of the staff team. Since the last community meeting, those two members, in this case, would be Slingstad and Josh Berry, who are both left at good terms and are welcome back whenever. Oh, well, they're welcome to reapply to become staff. We've also gained or had a couple promotions, which are as follows: Cabbage Friend, who got promoted to curator; Upway, who got promoted to curator; Spud the Bud, Luke the Sloth, Fox, and Mythiodot, who all got promoted to curator. A lot of curators these 2 months. And as a last point, as most of you has undoubtedly seen, we are currently have applications open for new helpers. So if you're interested in that, go ahead and head over to the join staff section in the Discord and feel free to submit your application. And we'll have a look over that at June 8th when the applications close. And after that, it usually takes around 48 hours for the applications to be processed and for the new helpers to get their DM sent out. As the last point, actually, I did also miss 2 people because I'm not that smart. We also lost Royal, who left the staff team and left the server. And we also lost Kelvin, who stepped down a couple of weeks ago. So, any questions regarding the staff team, how to join, what it entails, etc.?
Like Mr. Toff is typing something. Again, direct all the questions if you have any into that community meeting Discord section. Oh, no. Okay, we'll keep moving on then. Doesn't look like anyone has any questions. Oh, it's me next. Great. So let's talk about the bans that we've had over the last 2 months. So this is just bans from the last community meeting we had until this one. So not too many. We had a player, Blackberry_X, who was banned for Rule 1, some hate speech. They had appealed, and their appeal was denied. We had a player, I'm going to butcher how to pronounce this, Nirze or Nirze, Nirze. They were also banned for Rule 1 and Rule 2. They, as far as I'm aware, have not appealed. We had a player very recently, Sam and Sunday, who was banned for Rule 3, which is specifically for X-raying. They did appeal, and their appeal was denied. And another player, Origami Tabachi, was banned immediately from Discord for using slurs and being not a very nice person. So 4 people in the last 2 months-ish that we've banned, and that's about on record for us. For any of you that have been with us for a long time, we don't get many bans, and when we do, they're usually pretty egregious, like X-raying or hate speech, that kind of thing. That's mostly, I think, because we are a gated community, and so there's already a lot of barriers of entry, right? And so those players who are maybe perhaps a little bit more immature, or who are looking for a more low-effort way to mess with people and troll people, don't typically go through the rigorous whitelist process that we employ here. So we weed out a lot of people before they even get into the server. So we tend to ban somebody on average once or twice a month, if that. Which is compared to a public open server, it's like 0.1% of the bans that those kinds of servers do. And this is just another part of the commitment to transparency that we have. We'll always tell you who was banned and the general reason why they were banned, right? So we'll tell you rule 3, and it was specifically X-raying was the hack or the exploit that they used. But for those of you who are unfamiliar, we do have a policy amongst our staff team. It's called a discipline with dignity policy. And what that essentially means is that although somebody was banned and they did a bad thing, and so they were removed from the community for that, regardless of what they had done, even if it's hate speech, right, which is an awful thing to do, we still respect that as a human being. They have emotions and they have feelings, and they have the right over ownership of their punitive process. So we won't go into heavy detail about why somebody is banned. We give that person, that individual, the rights to control that information as they see fit. And so they'll be able to, if your friend gets banned, we won't ever tell you the details of why, but they absolutely could, and they have control over that. And so we'd direct you to DM that person to find out more information. So that's just part of our discipline with dignity. We give the offender full control over that process. And then if they choose to appeal, of course, then that puts it on a public platform, but that's just a part of the appeals process. Did I miss any comments on this? Oh, just people talking about 1.20, which we are going to talk about in this meeting. Does anybody have any questions about the recent bans or our punitive process or why we do things the way that we do them?
Bones is currently typing.
If Bones has any questions, I'll be surprised because Bones helped write some of this. So
I'd be a twist with it when I wanted.
we'll give him a second just to finish typing out something. Not in any rush. Bones says, do you think the instructions/information sent out during bans is sufficient? It generally appears as though appeals are denied for not apologizing or speaking enough about the ban reason. Just wondering if you believe it's sufficient. Just to clarify, Bones, are you talking about the information we send out to people who failed appeals? Like if someone appeals and they fail and we tell them the reasoning why, is that what you're asking, if we feel like that's sufficient or not? Or do you mean pre-appeal? I mean, I can answer both of those too, if you'd like. Pre-appeal, you've banned. Here's the book. Yeah, so I don't know. So what for any person ever who's ever banned on Dominion, we create a ban document for them. And so, say I got banned for X-ray, I would receive from a staff person representing the entire staff team, I would receive a compilation document that's like, here is the evidence, here is a rule that you broke, here is our proof, this is why. And they get that as soon as they are banned. It's a pretty quick process.
We also have the standardized ban message template, so everyone gets the exact same information in that DM.
And that also is part of our punitive process. Our punitive policy is that we believe if we are to take punitive action against somebody, whether that's something minor like a mute or a kick or a ban, they deserve the right to see all evidence against them. So that's another part of the policy that we always maintain. So yeah, they know everything that we have against them. We tell them all the reasons why they were banned, and then they are able to do with that information what they will. 9 times out of 10, the person says, yep, you got me, and then they never come back to Dominion ever. Sometimes we get people who appeal, and typically most of our appeals are in some form an apology. We actually rarely get a denial or a counterclaim against the evidence that we've provided. That's partially because we have another part of our punitive policy. You're all getting the full lowdown on how we do things. Another part of it is that we have a very, very high bar of evidence required. So, for example, X-raying, right? If we were to ban somebody for X-ray, there has been extensive evidence collection prior to that point. We don't just see one little thing or one clip that could be X-ray and be like, yep, that's it. Sometimes, to the staff team's frustration, me or the other admins might be like, nope, we need more. Sorry. Even though it looks cut and dry, we want more. So, yeah. Any other questions? Captain Epic has a question real quick. And then I do want to move us on from this. If being a part of all of this and the policy decisions and how we do things excites you, then you can apply to join the staff team and become a helper and quickly climb up the ranks. Be a part of this process and be a part of the people who get to decide how it works if that's something that you're interested in. Just waiting on Captain Epic's question, and then we will hopefully move on to the next section. Captain Epic says, if, say, someone appeals and is let back in, has the staff made considerations for the possibility of retaliatory actions from other members in the community against the offender? So, to put it in other words, if somebody gets unbanned, do we do anything to make sure that person who is unbanned is not targeted by members of the community for any reason, whether you were a victim or just a disgruntled person? We don't actively do anything. As far as we are aware, that hasn't happened. But I'm pretty confident that just the regular checks and balances that the staff team go through, we would naturally catch that kind of foul play. So it's hard to say because I don't think it's ever happened on Dominion, but I feel like if it were to happen, we would find out about it through our own regular means of catching cheaters and rule breakers. All right, let's move us on to the next section here. Take it away, Bob.
All right, so I'm just going to go over some of the changes, big and small, that we've made since the last community meeting, which are in kind of ascending order of gravity. We merged the news and patch notes ping just because @patch notes was never used, or very, very rarely. The wandering trader alert radius, so the little net message you get in chat saying a trader spawned, was decreased from 100 blocks to 48. There is a new public banner station under the inn where staff storage used to be, so you want to design your banners, go there. And there is a new community projects building, also close to the inn, I believe, where community projects can advertise their goals and see if they can gain some members, or if you're curious, you can see what community projects are ongoing right now. And then the big one is we've made some pretty big changes to our whitelist process. Most importantly, probably, that we are now 18 plus. And, well, you have to be 18 to join Dominion now. And the people who are currently younger than 18 are grandfathered in, so they're not all banned, luckily. We did this because to increase maturity generally. A bunch of other servers do this. Loki's server actually does this, Near Vanilla, who we are loosely partnered with. Yep. And then with respect to the questions on the whitelist forum, we removed a few and we changed a few. For example, we removed the question about their location and the time zone, because that doesn't really affect how likely they were to get accepted by us. That's not something we need to know. And we changed the questions where we would expect a multiple sentence answer or long answer, which were previously, why would you like to join Dominion? And what is your favorite aspect of playing Minecraft with other people? And now are some more open or longer questions. First one being, everyone enjoys a different mixture of Minecraft gameplay. Please let us know how you enjoy playing Minecraft the most. Secondly, Dominion is a tight-knit vanilla server. Please let us know what aspects of our server appeal to you the most. And lastly, have you ever participated in other community servers, and asking them to detail their experience in that regard. Now, the first two are kind of rewordings, in essence, of what we would want them to answer in the old format, being how they would like to play multiplayer Minecraft in general, and what about Dominion specifically intrigues them or appeals to them. And then the last one is something that allows us to catch people who have a lot of experience, let's say, in building, or actually ran their own server previously, or ran their own community in a different video game, or whatever. And to catch those people who have experience community-wise, not necessarily in playing video games or Minecraft at all, and give them an opportunity to show off what they've been doing. So we made those changes because the current whitelist system is extremely old, almost since the beginning of the server has been this way, and we felt that the questions were a little unimaginative and they could use a revamp. And lastly, one change we made to the whitelist is adding a PSA stating that we collect some data, including playtime, play sessions, name changes, and so on, which is used to inform decisions such as mailbox reclaim or shopping district reclaims, and that the application is public after it gets accepted or denied in our whitelist log channel. So yes, pretty big changes to the application system. One thing I forgot. Previously, we would handle a denied application pretty much the same as a ban. So they could appeal that decision in 6 months. But we decided that it wasn't really on the same level of severity at all. So that wasn't appropriate, making them wait 6 months. So now you can reapply in 30 days if your application is denied to Dominion rather than 6 months. Yep. Oh, and yes, of course. Thank you, Wolven. Lastly, we would previously have asked anybody, no matter how bad their application, if they wanted to expand on it. We would give everybody the opportunity to expand if their application initially was not to our standards. But now, if you only give like a few words or one word even answers to the questions, we will just deny you outright and say, sorry, your application sucks. Maybe
or
you can
don't
find
use the format. That happens a
yeah,
lot.
or they don't use the format. Anything that really shows us that they did not read the starting message in the application channel, we will just deny them immediately instead of spending time trying to get their application up to standard. Now, that's not to say we don't do that at all. We do still give people an opportunity to expand if they at least put some effort in. Yeah, so pretty big changes to the whitelist. Are there any questions? Let me check the chat.
They've been answered by 36.
They've been answered, okay.
I like to think we've struck a balance with these changes because, yes, we've started to deny the very poor applications immediately, but we've also reduced it from 6 months to just 1 month for reapplying. So we feel like that's a fair balance to make it fair for players who are applying who like just didn't realize they needed to put that much effort in, but also making it way easier for our staff team to not have to coach every single application that comes in, which is what we were doing previously.
And we have the cute little headers that Discord implemented in our apps now, in our whitelist tickets.
A little markdown, so good.
Mm-hmm. All right, no questions, looks like.
Cloud Fuel is typing.
Oh, Cloud is typing, sorry.
Cloud says, do we have stats on the number of applications, declines, and joins? Not super important, just curious. I mean, I can tell you roughly how many applications we've had since we started doing the tickets, which is about 2,800. Pre-ticket whitelists, I couldn't tell you, but if I ballparked it, I'd say it's like a few hundred, maybe a little higher than that. So I would say we are a bit over 3,000 in terms of total applications. So I guess what we could do is look at to give us a rough idea, we could look at how many verified members we have. I know we've lost some over the years, have left the server, but let me take a look at that real quick. That will take me 2 seconds to look up.
Legacy whitelist application has 1,100.
Yep, that includes rewrites though and
responses. So I would say like if you just make it a third to be reasonable is what I would say.
We definitely don't have stats on the acceptance rate though. That's something that you'd have to go through. Definitely a subset of applications and just see.
So we have about 1,100 maybe a bit more than that actually. 1,200 verified people in Discord right now. So I'd say it's about 50% of applications get approved.
Yeah.
Other moderators who've done more applications than me can chime in if they feel differently, but I think it's about 50% is what my gut tells me. What has other people said? Mr. Toss says, not super important. How long till someone gets veteran status? That's a good question. It's kind of associated. So there is some criteria to become a veteran. Let me just remember exactly what we go off for that. Hopefully we have a pinned thing here. So the basic criteria to become a veteran are have had 6 months of consistent active playtime that hasn't had more than a 2-week break in it, and no more than like a total of 2 to 3 to 4 total breaks. That's like the baseline for activity. But then it has to be somebody who interacts and talks with the community, attends events semi-regularly, is just a nice, pleasant person to be around. Those are all the criteria. Those are like the more vague criteria, and then the more black and white criteria is the activity playtime of 6 months and very few breaks. So a player could be like the greatest player in the world, but if they come and play for a month and then disappear for a month and then come back for a month and then disappear for a month, that player is never going to achieve veteran status, no matter how long they're here. It's a fundamental requirement that you have to have been here for 6 months with very minor amounts of breaks in there, and then you will earn veteran status. Now, on the flip side, once you earn veteran status, you never lose it. The only time you would ever lose, like, let me clarify, you would never lose it for activity reasons. You can lose veteran if you become somehow an individual who no longer embodies the kind of culture that we want to have you be ambassadors for. So if you become a person who's constantly getting in trouble, maybe you had a temporary ban, things like that, those are all kinds of grounds for potentially losing your veteran status. I don't think that's ever happened. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it has happened once or twice, but I don't remember. So yeah. Oh, and then when it comes to the more loosey-goosey, more less concrete criteria, right? So like being a good person, being engaged in the community. That's when we take a pool of the existing veterans and we ask them, these 6 people meet the criteria of activity. Do all of you as veterans who play the server a lot and who embody the culture that we're seeking to reward, do you feel like which of these 6 people meet that criteria? And then they'll all put in their thoughts and their recommendations, and then we'll be like, great, here's a short list. And then ultimately it's me who decides that like they're going to get the role, but it's kind of been more expanded to the admin team in general getting final say. That's pretty much the entirety of the veteran process. And if you're not a veteran and you're new and you're like, huh, what's a veteran? It doesn't get any benefit. It's just a shiny, nice green name as a reward for your commitment to our community. There's no benefits that come with being a veteran at all. Did I miss any questions while I was rattling on all that?
No.
Miss B says, what if the break is outside of your control? Like I say, there's a little bit of leeway, but ultimately, say you had to step away for a certain amounts of time. It's always going to be a little bit of a case by case basis. So it's hard to say. But yeah, Heavenly's right. We typically consider a break, regardless of reason. The same as like shop checks, right? We get it that some people might have to go away for 2 months for whatever reason, right? Maybe they're doing some big trip across the country. That's great, and we love that for you. But also, we're probably still going to reclaim your shops because the shopping district is for active players. So even though that's outside of your control, we still have a baseline that we maintain. I want to move us on to the next topic here, just to keep us moving. Free Flame, you want to talk about bugs and issues?
Hell yeah. So, known issues / bugs. Currently, we only have 2 bugs that we're aware of and are currently trying to work on. The first being, occasionally sign edit mode stays on even when you're not editing signs. So you can't place or break any blocks, which is very frustrating. The way to fix this is just to toggle sign editing with /es, and it will fix itself. The other one being Shocker farms losing their Shocker. This one is a bit of a doozy since we have no idea why it broke, and it does not really seem to be Dominion specific, even though it kind of is. We have been looking into it for a couple months.
Hasn't happened
I
for
believe.
a few weeks, so it might have been
It is
something
true.
that just got fixed. Who knows?
We haven't. I don't think we've done any testing recently to check if it's still active or not. But last time we checked, it was in effect. So basically, if you do want to test your Shocker farms, do so at your own risk, and do make sure you have a backup. That's the only 2 we currently are aware of and are trying to fix. If you do have any bugs you're aware of, please do report them by opening a bug ticket or speak up now. That also works. If not, just any questions regarding bugs, issues, ways we're trying to fix them, etc.
Alexa says, how about the issue of occasional double firing of repeaters during lag spikes? It's hard to say. It's not a Dominion bug. It's either a Minecraft or a like paper / spigot bug. And it's pretty rare that it happens, but it can happen, especially on very complicated machines like tree farms, anything with TNT. It's hard. There's not really much that we can do about that. It's just going to be something that comes with the territory of making those kinds of extremely complicated farms that, because of their complexity, the tiniest thing that falls out of line could break them, and pretty catastrophically break them if it's a TNT-based machine. But you just have to accept that risk a little bit. I know that's not the happy answer. We can do sometimes our best to, if it's the server's fault, revert these changes. We have very powerful tools that allow us to roll back damages. But when you have a machine that's firing, say, piston heads every tick, and TNT is exploding every like 20 ticks or whatever, it's difficult to roll that back and be precise enough to where the machine works perfectly and doesn't just keep exploding every time we try. So we'll always do our best, but there's only so much we can do. Which sucks. But hopefully we are on newer server hardware right now. So maybe the new machine will help mitigate a lot of that. It's hard to say. Any other thoughts?
Do we have any updates on the NBT issue with player heads?
So the plugins that used to do it, it's not like a bug in vanilla Minecraft, at least in 1.19.4. It's like the behavior of player heads is that if you place them, they lose their names. But we installed a plugin to help like make that not happen. The plugins, the two that we've looked at, still don't work. Haven't been updated. I might be misremembering, but I swear I read something in one of the random patch notes for 1.20 that this was something that they'd fixed, and that even in the base game now, player heads retain metadata when placed and picked up. But don't pin me on that. This might be some weird fugue state dream that I had one night, but I feel like that's a thing, and I'll try my best to look that up in the to this meeting to see if that's real.
Okay, thank you.
Bones is saying the bug is you place heads. Yeah, so if you place a player head, say we've custom named a player head to be like set 1 plush penguin plushie, and it's like yellow text or whatever. If you place that and pick it back up, it would revert to the default yellow text of just saying player head. Just because it wouldn't retain that metadata when you break that block again. Because as soon as you place it, it would lose that. And we just had a plugin to work around that, but the plugin stopped working. Awesome. And yeah, I feel like that's something I saw in the patch notes and got excited for. So I'll look that up. The other thing I'll say before we move on is, yes, we know the creative server is still bugged to shit. But hopefully, as you're all aware, we're making massive steps to fix that. So once the craziness of moving machines has settled down and we fixed a lot of the bugs that came up with that, our next top priority is to get the creative server switched over from what it is now to what it's going to be. Yeah. Let's move us on. Oh, before I move on, I'll say, yes, Smiley has a great idea. For the time being, if you want to have your player heads in the world but don't want to place them, you can put them on armor stands too. Just be very careful when you right-click them onto an armor stand that you actually are clicking on the armor stand, because you might click on the floor behind it or the wall behind it. As soon as you do that, the data for that head is lost. And the staff team is not responsible, and we are not replacing those items, just as a heads up. Except for the ones that are in the giant wheel end, I guess.
So easy to miss. Be very
Chow,
careful. It's so easy to miss.
You cut out like crazy, Chow. Can you say that one more time? Nope, I guess not.
It's typing.
Oh, okay. Okay, let's move us on while they're typing. We can always circle back a little bit. Heavenly, you want to talk about next thing?
Yeah, sure. So it's almost time for the summer build event. It's scheduled for June 18th. We've got 2 sessions for this time around to try and open up the floor to as many people as possible. We've got an EU-focused event at 10 a.m. Eastern and a US-focused event at 4 p.m. Eastern. The event thingies in Discord will be converted to your local time if you don't know what the conversion is. As far as setup goes, we're going to be reusing the same areas last year, which is sort of, I think it's on the north side of Spawn. I was probably wrong about that. The resource building is ready to go. Staff just has to move resources in, and we're going to do that next weekend, I think. But if you would like to donate materials, standard procedure for that, just like let staff know. We can get you donating stuff if you've got materials you would like to donate to not just the summer building event, but in general our seasonal building events and spawn beautification, because that all comes from the same storage unit. I don't know if we've got the heads for the summer build event picked out. Not 100% sure about that.
Don't think so. If somebody wants to make a thread and start organizing that, they can. Otherwise, we'll just pick a bunch on the day and go with that.
Yeah, that's it for the summer build event stuff. Does anyone have any questions or comments or concerns? See Cloud's typing.
I don't know if you said this, but we are expanding the area of the current summer area. So we're not like making a fresh new zone. We're going to expand the existing like beachy summer vibe area that we have going on.
Yeah. I have
a question.
Oh yeah. Go ahead, Sarah.
About the summer thing. I don't know
Yeah.
if you were gonna move on, but I was gonna ask you guys if I could update that resource building a little bit, like maybe put like an octopus on it, so it's kind of different this year, not the same as last year.
Sure.
Yeah,
So
I don't see why not.
tomorrow? So just to let everybody know, tomorrow there's an event that you guys can't see just because it's mostly a staff related thing, where we at 2 p.m. Eastern, let you convert that yourselves. The staff are going to get together and we're going to do some like converting some more area into sand, doing some light terraforming, and also stocking that storage building. So if you're a person who wants to help with that, or you want to help renovate something, we're not building and renovating actual builds, but if, for the storage building or for the terraforming, if you want to help that with that, then we'll be doing that at 2 p.m. Eastern tomorrow.
Yeah, it's the boring behind the scenes stuff to make the actual fun event happen. So to answer Cloud's question of is there a place to find info on how to go about item donation / resource gathering, or is it best to just reach out to staff? In the past, we've done specific donation areas, but we don't currently have one at the moment. So if you want to do that, just reach out to staff and we can help you get things sorted.
It's a great question, Dawn. Will you remember to ask that towards the end of the meeting, and we'll talk about that specifically? We'll kind of treat it as its own like mini topic. It's a good question. Any last questions?
I think we're good for you to take on the next topic, probably.
Give it just another 10 seconds, see if anyone's asking questions. Eva Muffy is typing. Eva Muffy says, "Is there a list of common items that we are low on that we can start stocking up on?" I believe somebody in the staff team made a spreadsheet of literally everything we have stored, so we can look at that.
Yeah, Spud made a spreadsheet. We gotta find it.
So if somebody wants to, I'm gonna let a staff person look into that, and then if y'all want to, you can come up with a list of things we're low on. It's the usual suspects like rooted dirt, right? Like those a little bit harder things to farm. But we can make a list and then let everybody know that we're seeking donations of those items, maybe. I'll let somebody else take care of that, though. All right, next topic.
I can work on getting a list of things we need.
Awesome. And if you want to make some kind of announcement or a thread, whatever you want, whatever you think works best. So, Pride Plans fundraiser. So, as you all know, I did a big announcement. We have a mysterious anonymous benefactor who, once again, is doing some donation matching. So, what that means is that anything that gets donated to Dominion in the month of June gets doubled, and then it gets donated to the Trevor Project as well. So, for example, if you donate $1, for every $1 it gets matched. And if anybody else wants to, they can also become a donation matcher. So just send me a DM if you'd like privately. If you're someone who wants to donate but wants to do something a little bit extra, if you have the means, of course, don't. If you financially do not have the means, then please do not do this. But if you'd like to become a donation matcher, you can. You can send me a message, and that would just mean your $1 to Dominion would actually be $3 or $4, depending on how many matches we have. Otherwise, any donation during the month of June counts, even if you are somebody who's like already a service subscription member and you're already paying monthly. Whatever that is for June that you were contributing anyway will get matched as well. And then obviously any one-off donations to PayPal will also get matched and donated to the Trevor Project. If anyone's unfamiliar with what the treasure, what's it called? The Trevor Project. It's a fantastic charity that specializes in, does a lot of things, but one of the most important things, in my opinion, that it does is it really helps with suicide prevention amongst queer individuals, particularly trans folks and people who are transitioning. They do a lot of work with that. And just a lot of outreach, a lot of education to the world, slowly, one community and one person at a time, trying to get people to understand the plights of those individuals and the challenges that they face in life. So it's a really, really, really good charity. And obviously perfect for June. And then in terms of other Pride related stuff, so we're working on behind the scenes some things to celebrate Pride and to remind people of the donation drive that we have, and maybe even some kind of donation drive related rewards, right? Like reaching certain milestones, things like that. We're still figuring out a lot of the details of them, but one that we're happy to announce is we are going to do an extra build event during the month of June on top of the summer decorating ones. And it's going to be a Pride parade. So we're going to create somewhere in Spawn, around Spawn, a big road that leads from one place to another. And then we're going to invite you all on the survival server to join us, and we'll create floats of all different kinds, whatever your heart desires, that will stay on the server forever. And then maybe in the next year we'll do the same thing or something similar, or we'll expand that, who knows. But just a nice way to celebrate the diversity that we have in our own community, while also reminding everybody of the donation drive we have to support the communities in our real world. And we're going to hopefully do more Pride-related stuff this month, but we're still figuring out the details of all that. If anybody has any ideas, though, feel free to drop them to me in a DM or open a ticket. That's fine. Does anybody have any questions at all about the donation matching, what the Trevor Project is, what the details of this Pride Parade build event are? Give it a second for questions. I just wanted to say I appreciate all the effort into marking Pride. Thank you. We're going to try and take it to the next level a little bit this year, without going crazy, but we're going to do some special events. All right, let's move on to the next topic. Okay, so this is a biggie. Let's talk about 1.20 and the plans that we very recently announced. So let me recap each of them, and then this is very much an open discussion to you all about your thoughts on it. Some things are set in stone. Some things are still very flexible and open to change based on your opinions and your feelings. So the biggest thing, and the one thing that's not subject to change, is that we have made a pretty large decision that's going to fundamentally change Dominion forever beyond this release. And that is that we have decided to change the seed for 1.20 and permanently hide the seed going forward. So what that means is that we always face a few problems with this. Every time we expand, there's a lot of problems associated with people knowing the seed and people gold rushing and being able to use third-party tools to reverse engineer, to be able to obtain items or locate structures very quickly. And also another thing that keeps happening is that we keep changing the seed, and it keeps breaking things from previous expansions, right? So for example, if we change the seed for 1.20, there's potential for certain farms to stop working, like flower farms and husk farms and slime chunks, right? Things that are very determined on the seed of the world. If we change the seed, things that relied on the seed, of course, are going to break. So we want to solve those two problems. And so what we've decided is we are going to do one final ripping of the Band-Aid. So what that means is we are changing the seed again, which yes means we may have some trouble with some farms breaking, but that comes with the guarantee that moving forward, we are never, ever going to change the world seed again. So any future farms, everyone can move forward after this big change with the confidence that we're never going to encounter these problems again. Okay. To answer a question, Donna asked a very good question, which is the seed hidden for staff as well? Yes. The only individuals who will ever know the seed to the world are the admins. Not a single staff person will ever know. And then the other thing I'll say about the seed is we have some very smart, clever people in our community who have some coding experience, who are working on means and ways to, even though the seed has changed, still retain some of that behavior of like slime chunks and husk farms and desert temple bounding boxes, all that big brain stuff that I don't really understand. It's looking very, very, very promising. We're not ready to say that full double thumbs up, this is something that's going to be working forever, but it seems like the mechanics work very well. So even though we're changing seeds this time, we might be able to retain a lot of farms. Not every kind of farm, but a lot of farms will be able to still continue to work, even though we're changing the seed. But we're not ready to make that guarantee. We don't know the unforeseen circumstances that might prevent that from working. Who knows? But that's hopefully helpful. Other big changes for 1.20. So we have changed our policy when it comes to non-renewable items, right? So there's two tiers of non-renewable items. One is the plentiful non-renewables, and the other is the non-plentiful, right? So as an example, diamond ore, right, technically is a non-renewable resource because there is a finite amount of it in the world. But there is so much of that finite amount that it's not ever actually going to realistically be a concern in any timeline, right? And some other examples of that might be amethyst or calcite or tuff, right? Some of those things are difficult to obtain. Sure, they might take a lot of time investment to get, but there's an air quotes infinite amount of time that could be spent collecting that in the world because there's so much of it. And then you have the other side, which are things like your soul sneak books, right? Where currently they only in vanilla are obtainable from chests in ancient cities. There's a very finite amount of those in any expansion. Or in the new expansion, we have the suspicious gravel and suspicious sand that there's quite a bit of it, but it could realistically be wiped out. So the reason I'm bringing this up is we're changing our approach to how we deal with that kind of lack of availability. So in the past, we've added some of these items to the Wandering Trader. So the Wandering Trader for a very long time now has had Swift Sneak books inside of it. It has had drip leaves, things like that. Some random items that we've thrown in. But we don't necessarily love that solution. And even at the time when we added that, we didn't love it. And we knew that if we could think of something else, we would. So what we are doing moving forward is making it so that the Wandering Trader is only ever for cosmetic player heads. And that's the only thing on top of like its vanilla Wandering Trader sales, right? It's only ever going to have cosmetic player heads in it. So the other items that the Wandering Trader had, like the Soul Sneak books, those are going to be added in some other method. So those methods currently are things like adding them to drop tables. So killing a mob of a certain kind has a certain chance to drop a certain item, right? And we can be clever about that, and we can make it be like any kind of kill, like falling or dying in lava, or we can make it mandatory that a player has to kill that mob in order for a chance for it to drop, right? So we have a lot of flexibility there. And the other option we have is adding it to existing loot tables like dungeon chests, end city chests, things like that. These are the avenues that we are moving those items towards, and we're moving away from having the Wandering Trader be the source of those items. That was a lot of words, so if anybody has any questions about that, please ask away. And then in terms of resetting areas, our stance on that is that if we could have a Dominion that didn't have any kind of land resetting, we would. That's the perfect scenario, right? Where we don't have any resetting of any kind. But there are certain things that require us to have a resetting end. And that's just because we have a multiplayer, massive amount of players who are exploring. If we didn't have a resetting end, there are very real very important items like Elytra that would become very, very, very rare to obtain. But we accept that we have to have a resetting end. That doesn't mean that the solution should also be resetting the overworld or parts of the overworld for those other resources. We want to avoid that as much as possible. And so while we know not everyone agrees with the methods that we're moving forward with, we have made the decision that until we're forced to, we are not going to have any kind of resetting anywhere else in Dominion outside of the end. We'd rather pursue other vanilla adjacent methods of repurposing the items by drops and chests. Quack says, would it be possible to have it gotten from specific kills, like specify it from fall damage or types of fire damage? Yep, we can be very minute and specific about mechanics to obtain. Like, think of something crazy like skeletons shooting a creeper or a charged creeper, right? And they drop the music discs. We can have, not saying we will, but that's the kind of level of mechanics that we can have for these items where we can come up with creative ways to solve these problems. Okay, the other thing we're doing in 1.20 is we are changing the map. So as you all know, one of our biggest commitments is to make sure that server performance is as good as possible, right? That we're always improving that. And one way that we do that is by getting better hardware. There's better CPUs and better, faster RAM and better hard drives that are released every year. And so every now and then we are going to upgrade a hardware to bigger and better things, like we just did this last week. And that's going to come with a major performance boost that I'm sure we're all already experiencing to some extent. But the other side of that is improving the existing server software and processes that run to make them more efficient, right? And our live map is the most draining in terms of resources and performance piece of software or plugin that we have running. Dynmap existed back when Bones and I ran servers 8 years ago, whenever it was. It's very old hardware. It's a very old-fashioned rendering engine. It's not very efficient. And sure, it's seen improvements over the years, but in terms of more modern technology and more modern ways that the browser can be used to display information and render things locally, it puts a lot of strain on the server. In fact, we're not even just rendering one map either. For every single block update that happens in our world, you place a block, you chop down a tree, the server then has to send a request to generate a 3D map and a 2D map every single time a block is updated. And then it renders that and displays it to the server. So it's very labor intensive. And so for performance reasons, we have decided to move away from Dynamap entirely. So the current leader in terms of performance, both performance server-wise and performance for you loading it on your computer or loading it on your phone, is PlexMap. So I'm not going to go into details about like what PlexMap is, but it's a 2D map, very similar to the 2D view of Dynmap. Has all the same features of shot markers and outlines, things like that. We're still in the process of converting everything. But that does mean that for now, we don't have a 3D map. Now, we are committed to providing you a 3D map. We just don't have one ready because it's very expensive. And what we will tell you is that we will almost certainly, unless there's some miracle plugin out there that does things very with very low strain and stress on the server, we will very unlikely have a 3D map that live updates. But what we will have is a 3D map that maybe updates every week or every day or every 12 hours, whatever we determine is a reasonable time frame for this process to run. But that will be coming soon. We're not ready to announce in what capacity at all. So just something to be aware of. Okay, I talked a lot. Does anybody have any questions on any of that stuff? I know it's a lot. Did I miss anything in the chat as I was waffling on? Dawn of the Dead says Swift Sneak is only obtainable from Warden who have taken fire, water, and fall damage. I mean, all these are potential like options, right? Miss B says, I feel like the time period of chunks to roll out in the 1.20 area is the problem, not the system itself. Because intentionally, I left that part off because I knew we'd have more time to talk about that. So I wanted to get through these other ones before we talked about the timeline rollout. So it's good that you brought that up. Does anybody have any questions or thoughts about the changes that I've talked about so far? Okay, cool. So then the last part in the elephant in the room is that we've made an announcement about how we were releasing the expansion. So to preface this, I'll announce that we have had major issues in the past where we've always referred to it as a gold rush mentality has been experienced, right? And what that means is we've set a time and a date for the boundaries to come down, and as soon as that has happened, everybody has rushed out into the new terrain, and it's been a very gold rush mentality where the first come first serve for these very limited resources gets them, and that's that. And there's been some pushback on that in the past, and I agree that it's not necessarily fair that one time favors EU or US and that kind of thing. And so we've taken some time to evaluate what are different options that we have available to us to make this rollout more fair. And what we decided was that some kind of staggering release was probably the best way to make sure that the majority of people were covered. So what we proposed was that we would have 4 different time slots at 6-hour intervals covering a 24-hour period over the course of 4 weekends. So Saturday of one week, and then Sunday of the next, and Saturday of the next, and then Sunday of the next. That was what we initially had proposed. That's not something that we are locked in about. All the other things I talked about for 1.20, we are locked in for integrity reasons. But the release and rollout of the expansion, we are very open right now to your thoughts and feedback. So if anybody has any opinions or thoughts in general about that, then feel free to share away. Whether that's typing, or you can unmute yourself and chime in if you'd prefer to do that.
Yeah, just a question on that. When you talk about the rollout in subsequent weeks, would the idea be that like maybe the first one is a rollout that is a time that is maybe ideal for NA, and then the next one it starts that is a time that's ideal for EU, and so on and so forth? You see kind of where I'm going with that? Is that kind of the plan?
Yeah, so the current plan is / was at like 0000 hours Eastern time, there would be a release. And then 6 hours from that, I say 6 a.m. Eastern time, there would be a release. And then at noon Eastern time, there would be a release. And then at 6 p.m. Eastern time, there would be a release. That's just arbitrary numbers, but like a 6-hour staggered gap. And then each weekend would be one of those time slots, just to cover as much of the different time zones as possible. And then the idea of doing it on alternating Sundays and Saturdays and doing it weeks apart was so that if you're a person who happened to not be available on a Saturday one random week, you wouldn't miss out. But my opinion is that we may be overcorrected for the lack of availability. I'm sorry, what am I saying? The lack of fairness in the last expansion. That perhaps we've overcorrected. And so I'm very open to ideas of how we can dial things back, or maybe people are like, yes, this is the best thing. I actually love this idea. Because there are caveats, right? And I'm open to arguments.
I just think that the timeline needs to be shortened.
Yeah, I do
to
kind
maybe
of agree
daily.
with that. Do kind of agree that the time period is a bit too long.
What does your okay? So then, for the two of you, what does your gut tell you would be a more reasonable timeline? Like
feel
what?
Like
Go ahead.
I feel like maybe do the same system, but maybe shorten like the overall time span, maybe like 2 weeks instead of a whole month. I feel like, I don't know. It just feels like doing that would cause the same amount of problems because people could just get in first come first serve, get all the resources from those chunks, and then you have to wait more. So it's even more annoying in that case. That's just my feelings on it.
I think it's a great point.
Yeah, I think a month is definitely too long. 2 weeks would be better, but I do know that like weekends are gonna be more available for most people. So if we did 2 weeks, it might be better to do one weekend we do NA half the map. Next weekend we do the other half of the map with like EU time.
We could also do Saturday, Sunday still, and just have them back to back.
Yeah, that would also work, and then just do 50% of the map, 50% of the map.
So just so I understand, and I want people to feel like they have a voice here, so please type in the chat if you'd like. But the consensus is that we all agree that some kind of content release schedule is important. It's just the timeline that is happening maybe should be changed. Is that the consensus I'm getting? I don't want to put words in anyone's mouth. Okay. People are saying yes. So some kind of gating to make it fairer is important, but the time that takes is too long currently.
Yeah, we don't
It's
want to take away from like the magic of the update and people being able to like go out and build new things.
Yeah,
But
of
it should
course.
be some kind of gate to mitigate what happened last time.
Yeah. It definitely would be more annoying if you had to wait for more chunks if people claimed basically all of them already and all the resources in them, which would be kind of annoying, which is what I'm thinking the problem might occur. I kind of thought of a system in my mind, maybe we alternate in between like the weekends, like one day is like NA and the next day is like EU, and then for the next week we do Saturdays EU and Sunday. Just a thought. I don't know. Just a thought that occurred in my head.
Or even, okay, hear me out. We could do the same 4 releases, the like quarter at a time, and we could do, because some people are raising a good point. I think Bones pointed out that like weekends are not like they cover the majority, but they're not ideal. We could do like we could do, instead of spreading it out even to 2 weeks, we could do one single weekend and it'd be Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday.
I actually kind of like that idea. I'm down for that, honestly. Just gotta hear everyone else's opinion. I think it solves the problem of having to wait, but at the same time, it also staggers and spaces out the amount of time you'd have to claim the resources, but also not giving too much leniency as to prepare yourself too much to like get in there and grab everything.
Yeah.
You know?
And it won't solve everything. I mean, it could be that you're the person who works weekends, so you happen to be free on Friday and Saturday, but the 6-hour offset time slot we pick for that day is not convenient for you, right? And so I don't think there's a way that we can solve this for everybody. The goal is just to kind of cover as many people as we can. Does anybody feel strongly one way or the other about like a 4-day weekend release schedule?
Maybe instead of like Friday and Monday, we can maybe put it like Monday, like a Tuesday, like somewhere in the middle of the week, just in case. I'm not too sure, but like not too far from the weekend, but not too close, so it doesn't feel all too congested at the same time in case people have to work on those days. I don't know.
I like the Friday through Monday because that gives 2 weekdays, which might possibly be weekends for some people. And then it also gives 2 weekends for the people who need weekends. I don't know. I think that works pretty well to get it all out in one go. And as long as like obviously the staff that's running it that's like okay for them to be doing, because that's like a lot of back-to-back days and multiple hours. But I like it better than staggering it out.
So.
I like it better than staggering it out over 4 weeks, and I feel like also that would give us room to be able to like do events and like enjoy the new area with people and start our builds and stuff, rather than having to wait pretty much like the full weeks to really integrate yourselves into the new environment.
I do agree with Smiley on that. I feel like having to wait would be more annoying and we wouldn't get to enjoy all of it as fast as we would want to. At the same time, with mitigating the amount of gold digging in quotes that happened last time.
I want to, before anyone else chimes in, I want to make sure the people who are chatting have a voice. So I'm just going to read out some of the things that have been said so far. Let me scroll up a little bit. Cloud asks how big the new section will be. So it will be a 20K by 20K, not 10K, but a 10K radius, if you can imagine it like that. But it's essentially, if you were to look at our live map, it's that big corner section that's currently missing. It's a 20K by 20K section. And so what we're discussing is if we were to split that into 4, it would be a 5K by 20K strip going east each time we expanded from our current spawn. Let me keep going down here. Bones is saying about weekends being, not necessarily always being available on weekends. Dawn of the Dead says, at that point, why even do it with at least a few weeks or a month? It lets people who might not be available right away to get a chance. It's fair criticism. Cloud says basically doing a staggering rollout would be good to be considerate of different time zones, different availabilities, different play styles, and new players / veterans. Yeah, exactly. Free Flame has said 4 days feels a little too short. Steven says they like a 4-day. Free Flame says at least a week and has a thumbs up from Fox. Steven says, do we know the cherry biomes are really rare? I have no idea. Dawn says 4 days feels like it wouldn't really matter. I mean, that's fair criticism. I can definitely see from some people's perspective if we're shrinking the timeline like this, it's kind of like, well, what's the point? We may as well just rip the Band-Aid off. 36 says splitting it up significantly more than doing it all in the same day. Having separate days is so that each time zone gets an optimal time. In theory, yeah. Bone says obviously doesn't address the gold rush, but if it were over 4 weeks, it'd be 4 gold rushes. I mean, you're not wrong. It would just like kind of stagger the gold rushes a little bit. Let's see. He says,
What if you had to?
Go ahead.
What if you had to sign up for a session? Like you had to pick one of those sessions, and that was the one. Yeah.
I feel like that'd be difficult to like handle and moderate in that case.
Yeah, that's true.
Donna Dead says, I think it feels a little selfish to want it all rolled out as soon as possible, just to experience it all as fast as possible. It doesn't feel inclusive of people with slower play styles or, worse schedules. That's fair.
I do kind of agree with Bones that maybe instead of doing 4 days, maybe a week would be a bit better, as it gives more people with less like time on that weekend and those weekdays to actually be able to experience the new chunks as well as the new area. And it kind of just
like a every other day kind of thing. So like we do like Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Sunday, or whatever.
And then perhaps for like the EU and NA, perhaps we could change like for the time zone, instead of doing both NA Eastern Standard, maybe we could do one for like Pacific and one for Eastern. Same with EU. Maybe like we could change up the time zone as well. Not too sure. Just so more people have access to actually getting there.
Can I ask a question more along the lines of what Steven said? With the new seed, will you guys be trying to find a seed that has like more cherry blossoms than normal, or are you just going for completely random?
That's not something that's even come up until you just said it. At least not in my brain. I haven't thought about it.
Okay. As far as I'm aware,
we might, air quotes, might do some seed shopping around, but we're not going to spend a lot of time on that process.
I'm just concerned that I know for a fact that there's a couple people already that want to move into those areas. And if there's a few people living in a very...
As long as the biome is not exceptionally rare, the fact that we have a 20K by 20K region means that just by law of averages, no matter what seed we pick, it's going to kind of average out over time. So I just don't know how rare they actually are.
I believe it's very rare. Not like the
Great.
rarest biomes, but like
I know that we had to shop around a little bit for the mountains in the last expansion to make sure we had a fair number of those. So yeah, if it's very rare, we'll do some seed shopping. If it's pretty common, we're not going to worry about it.
I think it's about like birch flower forest, maybe.
So there's a lot of great opinions in here. And I don't want us to get stuck on this. So what I'd like is for a staff person or an admin person in this call, if you want to go ahead and make a thread under the, I don't know where, on the general maybe, and then we can transfer this conversation to there and have a more thoughtful, deeper conversation over time. And then we can reevaluate what the current rollout ideas are. Maybe we can even run a couple of votes on what people think are best.
Can I... Maybe 1.20 discussion is better for instead of general.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, we already have a space for it. Yeah, put it there. Good point. So yeah, start sharing your thoughts. Ideally, if you have specific, like your opinions on other people's methods are fine, but if you have a method of your own of like, what about this? What about this? Then please drop those in there, and then we can do a opinion vote, not a vote on like what is going to happen. That's still going to be whatever the admin team thinks is best given your arguments, but just to get an idea of what people feel like is the right fit. I'm going to move us on because I don't want this meeting to go on forever. Real quick last point about 1.20 release. In the past, we've disabled the map and we have disabled Elytra. We are not doing either of those. The map is going to be live because we have a hidden seed now, so it's not like that's already going to mitigate a lot of the gold rush. And Elytra is going to be enabled initially. In the past, we've disabled it because when you have 40 people all online, even with pre-rendered chunks, all flying rapidly over a new terrain, it tanks the server performance. But we're hopeful that the new machine is going to support that. Having said that, we have something in place so that we can flick a switch. And obviously, we're not going to drop you out of the sky and make you fall to your death, but we will announce that we're disabling Elytra and we'll flick that switch. Only purely, there's no reason, like, it's not like we're like, hey, you have to walk on your feet for the new expansion to experience it the right way. It's just a performance thing to be able to mitigate some of that performance issue. But we're hopeful we don't need to use it. All right, I'm going to move us on to the next topic. I guess we already talked about this next one, huh? The changes to permanent hidden seed. Oh, it's me talking again. Okay. It's a short one. So server hardware changes. So just to give you an update, we have successfully moved servers. We've moved everything as far as we're aware over to the new machine. Some of you might already be experiencing a difference in ping. If you're European, your ping has gotten a lot better. If you're American, your ping has gotten a little worse. And if you are anywhere in between those, you should have stayed roughly the same for the most part. But this difference in ping is only about 40 to 60, depending on where you were in the world. It's very irrelevant. We're not a PvP server. If you were spam bridge building in some nerdy multi-minigame server, then sure, it might be a problem. But for Dominion, it's very, very, very not noticeable. And then for performance-wise, we should see less dips in TPS issues when larger farms are loaded. We should also see faster backups, faster restart times, things like that as we go. I will say there are some things that we're catching that we forgot about. So if you find something that's not quite working right, like the map didn't load for whatever reason because we forgot to transfer something or change some of the DNS settings, I'm sure there's other things out there in the wild that we've missed. So please let us know, and we'll add them to our to-do list and slowly fix them up. Anybody have any questions about the server move, the upgrade, the hardware, anything like that? We moved to Germany because it was a deal that we couldn't resist. I would love to keep, just for billing and, God forbid, illegal reasons, I would have loved to have kept everything in the States because that's where I live. But they were offering a server that was 30% stronger, had like 1,000 times the storage, 100 times the RAM, pretty much, and for like $30 a month cheaper. So you could say no to that. Did I miss? Oh, people just still talking a little bit about the other thing. Cool. No one has any questions. God, somebody else talk, please. Heavenly, can you take the lead on this next one?
Okay, I got you. So in line with all the updates we're doing, you may or may not know we have a website. It has gone unloved and untouched for several years, like 3+ years of no updates. And we're changing that with our new server. We are going to be hosting our website not locally, but on our new box, rather than the previous GitHub Pages model we were using before. And the old solution was really, really limiting in terms of what we could host and what we could do on there, because just the limitations that exist with GitHub Pages. So we're going to be building up a new website. It's primarily Wolven and I taking it on. You might have seen in the flurry of @everyone's in the past 2 weeks, we have a thread in community news called Website Media, which is sort of an open call to anyone if you've got like screenshots or art or video clips or just any form of media that might be good on the website. We would love to have that to put on there, because we're redoing the whole thing. We're tearing everything down from scratch, or tearing everything down, building it up from air quotes scratch. Not actually from scratch, but we're scrapping what we had before. And we're going to be making the website this hub for all things Dominion. We're going to be embedding Notion and Plan and the stats website and absolutely everything you can need to know about who we are as a server. We're going to be looking at things like a live player count and some like really fun stuff with like people's faces, and a whole bunch of other things. So stay tuned, because we're only like 10% done doing stuff. We're still very, very early in the planning and execution of all this. So go to questions.
I have something to add to that, just to reiterate. The idea is that we want two things, right? That we want our website to cover, ideally. One is that it is a portfolio of our community for anybody on the outside looking in. So anybody who's like questioning a Dominion or curious about joining us, or wants to learn more about us, we want it to be a place that they can look at and have the website, one, reflect the quality of our community, and also to contain relevant information and displaying a lot of the efforts that our community has achieved, like through a lot of that media that you're providing. So that's the one reason. And the other reason is we want it to become the single repository of all things related to Dominion as a player as well, outside of the Discord, of course. So what I mean by that is, you all might have seen other servers have like a navigation bar across the top, and when you click on map, it loads the map and high scores and things like that, and it will keep the navigation bar there. That's something that we are doing in our server. In fact, I'll show you. I got some example images that I will throw in thread here of what our website is going to look like for not the homepage, but like some of these extra resources. And so the idea is, if you're a player and you go to our website, that's the one thing that you'll have to remember. So if you ever want to look at the map or the high scores or the player data or anything like that, or our handbook even, you don't have to remember all these commands or do /handbook in game to get to it. You can just go to dominionserver.net and it will have links across the top for you to immediately click on and get access to that stuff. Or you want to just look at the map, you can load up the map and have a button right there to instantly hop over into the handbook or instantly hop over into the high scores. So just a central repository of all that information in one place.
I guess the other side is we want to stay away from, we want to make stuff like the Discord and the server sort of automatically populate the site, so we don't have to maintain it. We're trying to like prevent having to update the site regularly as people suggest things.
So things that we already know are going to be on the website. I mean, Heavenly talked about some that are going to be on the homepage, like a player counter. Hopefully, going to have some kind of rotating panel showing like active players' heads and their names, maybe. Of course, the main thing we're going to have on the homepage, sorry, not the main thing, but one of the things we're going to have is a carousel of amazing images that you all have provided. And then we want to have links to all these big resources like the high scores and the player data and the map and the handbook, right? But if you guys think of something that's like, this is a great repository, we should have this on there. Like, I don't know if we do want to have a page that says staff and you click on it and it shows you all the staff people with links to their like Discord profiles. Who knows? You tell us what you think, not what you think would be helpful to other people. Tell us what you think would be helpful for you to be on this website. And then we will consider adding it. But yeah, as Heavenly says, we don't want to add anything that is something that we have to constantly update just on the website alone. Because there's nothing worse than a website that has air quotes live content that never gets updated, that gets outdated, that gets forgotten about. So we're not going to do anything to the website that needs a lot of manual attention or any manual attention. It's always going to be automatic. Correct. Bone says it's also not a replacement for the handbook, I guess. Yes. So we have a link to the handbook, but it's an embed under our new navbar. So the handbook is staying exactly the same. It's just way more accessible now because you can just go to our website and click on handbook and it's there. One thing I was thinking about is having like the core navigation. So like having the most important links like handbook, map, high scores, plan, all on the main navbar. And then having a final part on the navbar that's like resources. And instead of it being a page itself, it has a drop down. And that's where we could do things like you're mentioning, Miss B. Like we could have a shop directory page, right? That's not one of the main navigations. It's a part of a drop down of like resources at the end. So that there's a kind of a hierarchy of these are the most common links and things that people are looking for. And then here are some other things on the side that you can access. Map art showcase, great idea. The last thing I'll say before we move on. Thank you, everybody, for providing media. And we are still looking for more media, too. So whether that is... we should have the Wilven Hat timer. Oh, speaking of timers, we're going to have a timer that's counting up from when Dominion was first formed, which is going to be cool. So we'll always have a live counter on the website of how old Dominion is as a server. Anyway, so for the media that everyone's provided, please keep sending more. Please keep making more. If you're the kind of person who has epic shaders and like 10,000 chunk render distance and can like do amazing shots of our spawn and things like that, please keep making those and sending them. We are going to use them. What I will say is we are not going to use every single image that everyone has provided, and I don't want anyone to be offended if we don't use what you've created. This website is an opportunity for us to really show what our server is about. And not every piece of media that's provided in that thread, while it's great, is a good fit for that purpose. So if you don't see something that you've created or that you've provided be included on the website somewhere, please don't be sad about that, and please anticipate that being the case. Any final thoughts about the website?
Cloud is typing. So...
Not sure if I missed anything else while I was talking.
Ms. B was suggesting that we have accounts for players. I don't think we'll do that because that's a lot of work for us on the back end for very little gain.
I could see us doing something like if we could do an accounts thing that was like associated, like you wouldn't have a Dominion account. You would just log in with like your Discord account, kind of like how you can do like a Gmail login on different sites. But we're hesitant to do that because I don't really see the benefit of like what information we would host on the website that would need to have you be logged in order to see or do. And because we don't really have that, there's not really much of a reason to do it. In my
We
opinion.
could maybe pull from the introductions channel in Discord. We could maybe do something from there so people could update stuff for on the site, and it would pull from Discord, and we wouldn't need sites. But we can talk about that later.
Okay, I want to move on. People having great ideas, but if you have more thoughts, feel free to like send them to me or Heavenly privately, and we'd be happy to chat to you and consider it. There is another one on here that says community storage drive from 36. Do you want to talk about
sorry,
that?
I just inserted myself in.
It's all good.
Can I just interrupt?
Yep.
There was one question that wasn't referenced that was kind of separate from Quinton. What about the Dominion social media accounts? Will those become active again?
Good question.
The problem, or I guess there is, what Wolven mentioned earlier, we want this to be something we can set, and that'll basically maintain itself. Because the worst thing is to have something that says it's live content, and then the last thing posted is 6 months ago. Because that really, really, really gives the impression of a dead server.
Yeah.
And that's what happened with our Twitter and whatever
I
other
wonder
social
if we
media.
could like link Twitter and Instagram to like make posts based on the fucking the starboard.
Starboard? We
It'd be pretty difficult to do, I'm sure, but very possible to do too. So I don't know.
Possible, but we might incur extra expenses from like Twitter's API.
API and stuff.
Yeah, we could talk about it.
Yeah, if somebody has the brains, the ability, and the time to do that, go for it. Because the reason I'm saying that is we want things to be manual and not dependent on a person or a team of people's, because we've consistently shown that we're not able to maintain that.
Did you listen to the donation report 36?
Yeah.
All right.
But, yeah.
Yeah, 36. Go ahead, take it away.
All right. So I just made a quick post in the community news that has a link to a spreadsheet that Spud made, but I have it filtered so that it only shows what we currently are low in stock on. So if you do want to help donate to staff storage for the community builds or any of the community build projects, or if you just want to help donate materials because you're bored, click that link. It shows you what we need. There it shows the amount of stuff we currently have, so everything on there we need. I put chests underneath the inn at spawn, so feel free just to drop your stuff off there, and we will move it all to staff storage eventually. So I'm probably just going to keep this up until the summer build event, so I think that's, 2 weeks from now? So after 2 weeks we'll take it down, and then once we need more stuff we'll do something like this again. Yeah.
Give me 1 second. I'll move us on. All right. Let me pull up the anonymous feedback form just to see if we had any submissions. Should have pulled this up earlier. My bad. Give me 1 second. Go. I'm sorry, excuse me, I'm just scrolling down. I forgot to clear out the ones from the last meeting, so I'm trying to decipher which ones we talked about then and which ones are actually new. Okay, so someone said, would the new and improved server hardware with its increased performance be an excuse to reduce the insanely strict mob spawning rules, or perhaps be now allowing for larger and more productive farms that could previously be too big and thought to be able to lag the server? Great question. I actually forgot to talk about this, so I'm glad you brought it up, whoever you are. Yes, so we have a server that, in theory, is anywhere from 20 to 30% more powerful, right? In theory, because never a linear scale like that. So it does mean that we have greater performance, and so we have a greater bandwidth to be able to do things like increase the mob limits or increase the mob spawning ranges, whatever it takes to get us closer to vanilla, the vanilla spawn rates, right? So that is something we are looking at. It's not something we are going to do preemptively. So we're going to give it time to settle. And then we might do things like increase the hostile mob limit by 5 mobs and then leave it a few weeks and see how that goes, see if it has any effect. And then just look at the data and go from there. In a perfect world, we would love to get to the point of like being a vanilla settings, but it's not a perfect world, and that's not a reality because Mojang don't spend enough time developing their server software, and we rely on like 25 different third-party resources to make this happen. So yes, we are going to be looking at improving the server in terms of the settings to be closer to vanilla. We're not doing it right now, but we are going to be constantly looking at that. Good question. Somebody said the current admin team is great. Thanks. Thanks, person.
Thank you.
Someone said someone was made vet right after joining. That doesn't make sense with the criteria. I'm not aware of what this means. Sorry.
That was Dawn of the Dead, who's a returning player.
Oh,
they were admin before they left.
Nope.
Veteran. Sorry.
They were a vet. Yeah, they were a previous veteran, and then they returned to the Discord. So that's how it appeared like they had received veteran after 1 day, but the reality was they had previously earned veteranship and then returned. And as I mentioned when we were talking about veterans, there's no activity requirement for retaining that role. Good question though, because I do think it from the outside looking in, that did look a little suspect. So. Cool. I think we might be done. Does anybody have, so this is the open discussion part. Does anybody have any thoughts or any topics, anything they wanted to revisit or things they brought to talk about to this meeting? Now's your opportunity if you have it. Type in that text channel if you did want to ask something or talk about something specific. Oh, good remembering, Dawn of the Dead. Dawn of the Dead says, will the Armor Stand book be updated? Yes, I'm pretty sure we will upgrade it to the newer version. I know that to some people that's not a great change, but I think the changes they've made to the Armor Stand book benefit the regular user. And while it might be not perfect and not great for the air quotes power users of Armor Stands, I think we're always going to prioritize the average user for these kinds of things. So yes, if an admin person here can put it on our to-do list to do that, we will upgrade the Armor Stands book. Miss B says, want to say thank you guys for making an amazing server. Love you guys a lot. Give me plenty of amazing memories. Thanks. Don says, wait, how does it affect the power users? I don't know because I'm not a power user, but I did hear some people saying that the new way that the book tweaks their Armor Stands differently from how it was previously. It's not ideal if you have like lots and lots of Armor Stands on top of each other. I don't know if the old legacy ways of controlling them still exist. And if that's the case, then it won't even affect them. But I have no idea. Someone else said, Sloth said, sign up for trivia. There's free map art. Yeah, so there's a trivia event that's happening. Let me check when the date was. On the 10th, which is Saturday. Next Saturday, I believe. A week today. It's a trivia event that you can sign up for. There's a thread too. And you can also find a team. I think it's correct me if I'm wrong, up to 3 people. But you can also participate with just on your own or just you and one other person. I'm sure they'd find a way to let that work. It's just a fun trivia, and there's a free map art as well that you can get. It's a really cool event. Someone else said, will the age requirement for the helper apps be changed to 18 plus soon? Yeah, that's on my to-do list. I think it's like in an embed or something that only I can edit. So we do need to...
In the Google form, it's on your account.
Oh, yeah. So if someone in this admin thing after this reminds me, I'll do it right away. But yeah, we're just going to remove any kind of mention of an age requirement in staff applications because it's completely irrelevant.
But this one right now, people under the age of 18 can still apply, right? If they're whitelisted.
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Yes. And just to be explicitly clear, the grace period that we allowed people to invite their friends and family who might have been younger than 18, that is over now. So I'm sorry if you had a brother or sister who was younger than 18 and they were about to apply. Too bad. Grace period is over. No exceptions. We are 18 plus now with grandfathered people. And just a reminder, helper applications are open. So if you want to be a part of this team that makes the magic happen behind the scenes, then you should apply. Yep, Heavenly is correct. Basically, if you are whitelisted, you can be staff. There is, in theory, no age requirement, right? There's an age requirement for the community, but not to become a staff person. So anybody in the community can apply. Yeah, and you're correct. Yeah, it will always be open to people who are younger than 18, who are like grandfathered in, can still apply.
On Dominion History Trivia, we had an openly 15-year-old moderator once. It was Kane, grandfather then.
Crazy time.
Mm-hmm.
Any final things? See a couple people typing. I'll give you a second. Oh, yeah. The seasonal server is still live. And we're getting close to finishing this next trial. I can tell you a little bit about seasonal. So I can tell you for sure that this seasonal will end before Dominion is live with 1.20. That is the timeline, right? And after this trial ends, because of the drop-off in players, but there's still being a very core group of people who are dedicated to playing, we are going to streamline a lot of things. So after this trial is complete, there's not going to be like build a massive railway to the edge of the world kind of thing. We're going to tweak the trials we'd originally designed to be a lot more reasonable to the efforts that people who are still playing. But if anyone's still interested, the seasonal server is still very much alive. A lot of people still playing it very dedicatedly. It's a really cool create server with some other mods on there. Still thriving. Once this season ends, we'll do another community meeting of sorts, and we'll do a little what's the term? A little debrief on what went well, what didn't, changes for future seasonals, that kind of thing. But right now, the current one is still live and still thriving. I'm going to conclude our meeting here. I am going to make a quick little Reddit post to advertise. For those of you that don't know, the only way that we advertise our server is from word of mouth, so you guys telling people about it, or getting people to come in through our Reddit posts that we're going to try to post every couple of weeks now moving forward. So with your support, if you have a spare moment, we'd love you to support this post. The best way to do that is to leave a little comment. So a lot of players who are looking for a new server will go to the comment section of a server ad first, just to see the authentic responses. And make it authentic. I don't ever want anyone to lie about their experience here. But if you're a person who's had a positive time, then just leave an honest review about your time here. That would be greatly appreciated and goes a very long way. I'll send a link to the post here in this channel, and then I'll make a server post about it in just a moment. But that's it. Reminders, seasonal server. We need your support there. It's still really fun. Tomorrow, 2 p.m. Eastern, there's a staff prep event for the summer event. Anyone's welcome to attend. It's mostly staff stuff, but if you want to help renovate the storage building or help terraform an area, then you're welcome to attend that. And then next weekend, on Saturday, we have a trivia thing going on that Sloth is running with some friends. Then we have the Sunday after that, we have the summer build event, 10 a.m. Eastern, whatever that is for EU time. And then again at 4 p.m. Eastern. So 2 separate events based on your time zones. I think that's it. Thanks for coming.
This is your reminder to edit the Google form for staff applications.
Sorry, what was that, Bob?
Your reminder to edit the Google form for... Funny.
Yeah, I'll get it.
XD.
I'll get it.
Lamal.